Stop the cap.
Oh man, this reinforces the video that I just made earlier in the day. Sitting here listening to. I don't know how I get these videos. I get these because I guess there's areas of overlap between the manosphere or the black manosphere and whatever issues white guys have. There's definitely areas of overlap, right? Because we argue about feminism, but there's still that element of white supremacy. It's like even listening to white women, I think I talked about this in the previous video, where, what I had to realize was that while white women are complaining about feminism, they're not complaining about white supremacy. They're having a power struggle with white men over, who should be in the driver's seat when it comes to white supremacy, but they're not trying to give up their privilege or give up their position. But I was just listening to a white guy from the UK, Fast Jet Performance. Now, this video, he's basically saying the same thing that I said a long time ago, which is, why sometimes I question white supremacy, because white supremacy is not what I had previously thought that it was. It's like an illusion. Now, that doesn't mean that, young white men don't want to identify with the system of white supremacy. They may not want to identify with it, but they definitely want the privilege of the system of white supremacy. They definitely want the privilege. And listening to this guy, Fast Jet, every time I hear jet life, I think, or it's a Fast Jet Performance, but my mind is going to currency. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so this is what I see. And it goes back to what somebody wrote on a long time ago, maybe a few months ago to a year, where they were like, basically, white supremacy changed the lock on the doors, of your average white man. And it's true. Like the average white dude went out, walked out the door one day, and then the white elites just changed the locks on them. And the thing is you get all this white men feeling that they're persecuted, like all this fake ass, white persecution complex. It's completely ahistorical. Like I said, oh, the Syrian Christians are being killed, but then, don't want to talk about what the Alawites and the Christians did to the city of Hama in 1982, right? They don't want to talk about that. Like the ass whooping it didn't just fall out of the sky, right? So they're just so ahistorical with it. Anytime they're getting their ass beat or they're getting their just due or what they deserve, they're going to cry, scream, and wail victim and throw their hands up and act like they didn't do anything. And this is like the mistake that your average white man makes, because they're not. Yes, they're white, but they're not a part of the white elite. And because the white elite previously would share some of the crumbs with them of the colonialism and going around the world raping and pillaging, like it's hilarious listening to UK British people cry, white people cry about how many immigrants are in the UK. And I'm like, you're the main motherfuckers who went around the globe trying to colonize the fucking planet, right? Nobody just randomly showed up to the UK. And again, they still don't get it. They're still, like in America, talking about preservation of their culture and completely ignoring the fact that the capitalists don't give a fuck about that. Right? If I'm a capitalist and I want more money, I want everybody's money. I don't want just white people's money. You all got tricked and duped into this idea of, you're thinking you're in a club that you're not a part of. Okay, the white elites went around and got you to do a lot of damage around the globe, right? You're just like the pawns. You're the guy that's on the ship. You're rowing the oars. You're putting the food in the ship from the docks, and like that's what your grandfather did. He was a worker. He was a worker bee. Okay, and they went around the globe, rape, pillage, and plunder. Again, a handful of the white people that were in the proletariat might have gotten elevated to like some mini boss level, some sort of middle management level where they would be what the proletariat would consider the middle class or the upper class, right? And you participated in that. But the white elite, they basically kept the vast majority of the spoils of that. And now that colonialism is over, and the markets are now in this global market, and or globalization, and there's AI, and there's the internet, and there's this techno feudalism going on. They don't need you anymore. So while you're running around trying to protect or preserve your so-called white culture, right? The white elites kept and hoarded all of the wealth, and then they left you with the bag of the reputation of all the sins committed by, you and the white elites who orchestrated it. The white elites, like, they're like way off in their ivory tower and shit. But you're the one that's catching hell, from the immigrants, or you're catching hell from the black people who are mad at you because of slavery. You're the one that's catching hell because the white elites, like, they withdrew the privilege. They withdrew, the rewards, the trinkets, the white supremacist elevation. So all you're left with is the bag of all the atrocities in which that you engaged in. And that's what I see when I see these videos, and all this frustration, and all this, oh, we don't have anything to fight for. Yeah, basically, we don't have anything to fight for anymore because we don't have any more white privilege. That's literally what they're saying. We don't have anything to fight for because we don't have any privilege. Feminists will come through and say, well, isn't it the same thing when it comes to patriarchy? No, because you benefit from the patriarchy. Yes, if a woman wants to be in control, wants to have power and all that other stuff, then obviously she's going to argue that, well, that's not what she wants. But the vast majority of women benefit from a man being in the proper financial position, and having to serve his wife and provide for his wife and children, in the classic traditional patriarchal way. Right. Women don't have to marry, every man that's out here. Women are picky. They pick and choose, and, that's what they do. But now it's becoming worse because, again, with the decline of capitalism, and the less resources trickling down to the masses, you have less and fewer economically viable men. So then that puts a strain on everything. It's not just the black community. Like, we were canaries in the coal mine, but now it's affecting white men, and now they're bitching, and not even really realizing, what the problem is. I'm like, the problem is the same problem that you all had during feudalism. Again, there were no black people, around when you were running around having, or at least not in mass, when you were having your peasant revolts. You get what I'm saying? Like you all were having your peasant revolts against the European elites. And you still have that issue. To this day. But instead of focusing on that, you focus on, oh, there's too many minorities around. Oh, diversity is not our strength, and that's what the problem is. Oh, it's the Jews, it's the Jewish conspiracy cabal, and that's why all of this is happening. And it's like, like, every time I'm looking for white men to really, like, recognize what's going on, they're always talking about cultural bullshit, as opposed to talking about the fact that they don't want to fucking pay you. They don't want to pay you. Right? I mean, the UK, I see the same shit. The UK is unaffordable. Nobody can afford. You got single moms all over the fucking place. Black people only make up, like, what? Like 1% of the population? I'm over here talking and don't even realize my damn recorder went off. I looked it up. Fucking black people only make up 3.3% of the population in the UK. Muslims only make up 6.5% of the population in the UK. And you guys are bitching like, oh my God, the country's turning into Afghanistan and it's turning into Nigeria. No, the fuck it's not. No, the fuck it's not. You guys are focused on the wrong shit. On top of the fact that, again, the reason why these people are former subjects, the vast majority of them, of the British Empire. The only reason they're there, is because of European expansion into these other countries. You guys are like are really sociopathic, in your thinking in terms of, claiming yourselves, to be victims. You live, a modern standard of living that is significantly better than most of the people in the rest of the world. Air conditioning, internet, freaking, heat in the wintertime, freaking healthcare, right? All that shit. And you're sitting there and you're bitching based off of, the consequences of your own actions. Oh no, the consequences of our own actions, and what we did going around the world exploiting the rest of the world for their resources, right? And now that the white elites don't want to share their wealth with us, oh, we're mad. We're so mad. We're so upset, and something must be done. Something must be stopped. Like like I don't get it. You know what I mean? Again, this is the same problem that has existed for a long time, in Europe, which is your beef is with your white elites. That's where your beef is. When you had all those peasant revolts, that was with the white elites. But you see a couple black and brown faces, and oh my God, it's the end of the world. Oh my God, how dare they play their ethnic music and I have to hear it? Oh my God, how dare the spices, of their food? How dare that chicken biryani, enter my nose and play with my nose hair follicles and shit? How dare they? Just the fucking weak ass white fragility, fucking what I got a friend that calls it. He's like pussy moaning. What's all no pussy aching? What's up with all this pussy aching? Just the white, the culture is changing. Just all this pussy aching. And at the end of the day, it's like, no, they don't want to share. They don't want to share the fucking wealth with you. They never wanted to share the wealth with you. And you guys, you don't even know the numbers. You guys are talking about shit. You're hyper focused on there's grooming gangs, or this immigrant, killed, this girl or something like that, right? Completely ignoring all the other murders and whatnot that are perpetrated by, white British citizens. Just going to completely ignore that, the hate crimes and all that shit. Right? And you guys are totally focused on the wrong thing. It's like freaking, the AME shooter, here in America. Oh, I got a real problem with black men. I'm so mad. Grr. I think I'll go into a church full of elderly black women and shoot it up. That'll really resolve my issue. Like, it's fucking stupid, man. Stupid. At the end of the day, if you all aren't going to confront your own power structure, if you all aren't going to confront the white elites that freaking, control you, then just stand up and just say, hey, I'm white and I'm a coward. And I'm a coward and I'm not going to fight against, the real power, right? You guys don't do that. I'm just sitting here watching this video, just looking at it and just saying, this is truly retarded. What this guy is sitting up here fucking belly aching about and whatnot. Don't even know the numbers. Freaking. So what is that? The African, what was that? That's 3.3%. And what was the other one? I think it was like 6 point something percent. The Muslims are like 3.9 million. So that's 6.5%. So that's like 9% and some change. It's not even 10% of the population. They're not even 10% of the population. And that's your issue. Those are your woes, is because there's too many Africans, Caribbean blacks, and Muslims in the UK. And that's the source of your problem. Again, what do any of these people have to do with the cost of living and the cost of petrol, as you like to call it, petrol, right? And the cost of goods and services in the UK, right? That they don't own, operate, and control. They don't control the docks. They don't control, the infrastructure. They don't control the, nuclear power plants, if you even have any nuclear power plants in the UK, which they probably do, right? They don't have anything to do with that. These are people that were a part of the former colony, and it's really disgusting when you look at like the way that these white people are bitching, because basically what they're saying is we want to be able to have a better quality of life than these people that we believe is due to inherent intrinsic white awesomeness, and not with us participating in the violence and colonization and maiming and killing and murderous behavior that allowed us to unfairly and unjustly grab these people's resources and bring them back to the UK, which is what made the UK wealthy, in previous centuries. They can't even own that. These people, I keep saying it, they're pathological. They are pathological. And again, as I said in my previous video, a lot of this is tied back to them, buying into this sort of identity that the white elites created in order to get them to go and rape, pillage, and plunder around the world and bring those resources back to Europe. They had a nice little, run for a little bit, and they were able to, reap some of the benefits of what was going on and whatnot. But, now that colonization is over, basically your average white person is going to go back to, the fields of serfdom within white society. And they're feeling that. And instead of sitting there and challenging the systems that they have and the white elites, that are at the helm, they're focusing more on, everybody else. Oh, yeah, look, there's a guy from Nigeria living next door. Oh, that's what the problem is, right? And then again, you have all these aspects of discrimination where people come into the country and then you marginalize, the parents, and then the kids grow up in poverty, and the kids, they know British culture. They grow up there, and, they're looking at the situation, seeing that they don't have a future. And then what do you end up with? You end up with a bunch of young men that want to have access to women and cars and material things and whatnot. And they're going to get it by any means necessary, which means they're going to be out there, committing crimes, knife crime and everything else, trying to make a dollar and joining gangs and organizations, selling drugs. Brixton Bully, slide with a butty, manhole 2 with the woody, like all that shit. They're going to be out there doing all that, because, you won't let them in because you got your bigotry and your racism. So they can't make any money in the UK because you're mad because you're not making any money in the UK, right? And you don't feel that they should be making more money than you, or even the equivalent of money to you, even though both of you have the same enemy, which is the white oligarchies that are hoarding the wealth. You see, because all that wealth, it went somewhere. All that, fucking 400 years of rape, pillaging, and plundering other nations and countries. You see? And so, now all those wealthy elites, they're just hoarding their shit, and they're just leaving you with nothing but the negative reputation of what they orchestrated and what they did, while they still maintain and hold the, have the wealth, and, they get to retreat to their ivory towers while you're, living in your, 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom flat. And all you have is the reputation of white supremacy, and you're being called out, by all the other various, minorities. And now you're mad. Now you're mad because, again, as somebody wrote in my comments section, white supremacy, or the white elites, they changed the locks on the white proletariat when they went out to lunch, and when they came back, they couldn't get in the house. And that's literally what happened. And that's literally what these white folks should really be mad about, but they don't get it. They keep thinking that it's the real problem is cultural enrichment. The real problem is Black Lives Matter. The real problem is, the Muslim grooming gangs. The real problem is all this diversity and equity and inclusion. That's what the real problem is, when the real problem are the ruling class that has always ruled Europe and has all of the wealth. I mean, hell, even your politics are trash in the UK. The House of Lords, like, what the fuck is that? You don't even vote for those people. They're just relatives of the royal family, and they get to come in there and have a say. And again, if you really look at the King Charles's power, nothing hits the floor that King Charles doesn't approve. So all of you have to recognize that, but you don't recognize that because you're simple-minded and you don't think about what's actually going on. But anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. That's WP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.
Move. Hold on. Yeah. Hello?
Where you at?
Where we at? Oh, you want to know where I'm at? We out. What's up?